Okay, so what we're going to need today are the parts, of course. Since we're going to be doing wet sanding, you want a bucket with some water, lint-free rag, Brillo pad. We're going to be using 220 grit sandpaper to scuff up the parts, 600 and 1500 in between painting, and then 2000 to make sure everything's super fine. Plastic wrap, and you'll see why we're going to do that. I'm going to try something different. A face mask. Now this, I'm in a well ventilated area when I'll be doing this, so this should be good. If you're not, use a respirator. Painter's tape. Glitter. This is an iridescent glitter that the wife wants to try on hers. We'll be doing white as the background color, so we're going to be just using a white primer. We're going to use a gray primer for the black portion we're going to try. A simple black spray paint. This is Satin Canyon Black. For the clear coat, you want a fast drying, or I'm using a fast drying polyurethane. You want polyurethane. That, especially if you're going to do this on a gas tank, polyurethane will fight the gas if it gets spilled on there. Others will not. And either mineral spirits or paint thinner. All right, so that looks like that's pretty much it. And I am going to cheat by, you see I've already done it, but I used a sanding orbital sander with 220 to help me with these parts to get them done quicker. All right, here we go. Wish us luck. All right, so now we're just going to wipe the part down to get all the dust and oils off it. It is dirty, especially after sanding. And at this point, I'm just doing a general wipe down and clean up. As Miss Kilts Can Do pointed out, I did not sand down in there because we will not be putting these parts on the bike. This is just a practice paint session. And once we get the fender and everything the way we want it in the gas tank, then we will be just doing those, not putting this back on. So there's no point in me doing the super difficult areas. Though, honestly, she's right. It probably would have only taken me 2 minutes longer for both of them. All right, those are ready. This one has already been primed, so we're going to practice on that too. That is the front fender. I don't know that I'm actually going to put it on there, but we're going to try something different on there. None of these are metal. You'll have a slightly different effect with metal. You'll want to use acetone paint thinner before all of this to make sure there are no oils when prepping. Plastic, same thing. I used it, but now we're going to prime and get it ready. And we're going to use the plastic wrap also. All right, so for this part, we're going to use the fast drying polyurethane. You want to use polyurethane, especially on the gas tanks, if you're doing it, to prevent the fuel from damaging the paint. You don't want to spend all this time on the paint and then find out just as soon as just a little bit of gas gets on it, it's completely ruined and starts bubbling. So we're going to put a nice 2 or 3 thin coats, and then we're going to try something different. Okay, so while those parts are drying, we are going to work on the fender that I've already got primed and sanded. You will notice I added a little piece of plastic wrap, and I'll show you why in just a second. This Miss Kilts Can Do wants this iridescent flake in the paint. Usually 99% of the time when you do flake, you're going to pre-mix it with the polyurethane and use a spray gun to spray it. We don't have access to that at this time. Maybe in the future, but for now, we're going to try to work with what we've got. That's why we are practicing, because if we can get this down before the final, then everything will be good. We've wet sanded, it's nice and smooth. We've attached the plastic wrap, and you'll see why. Okay, so a quick explanation as to why you would normally put the flake into polyurethane beforehand is when you add it after the fact, instead of laying nice and flat, sometimes it'll stick up on edge. What that does is it will cause almost a sandpaper effect on your product. You'll have to do like 30 to 50 coats of clear coat to bypass it standing on its edge, or just sand it down. On a black item, I don't think it would be so much of an issue because the inside is more black or dark colored. But on a bright item like the white that we're going to do, you're going to have, it's going to look like little smudges and whatnot, because you'll be sanding down the edges rather than like this. So we're hoping that with the plastic wrap, I don't know this is going to work, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to spray the poly, put the flake on, pull the plastic wrap down and smooth it, then pull the plastic wrap back up and put multiple coats of poly. If that works, then it'll make the sanding so much easier and there won't be all those spots. And we'll be able to tell pretty soon. All right, so we've put one quick coat of black on. We'll let it dry. We'll put another coat on. Then we'll do a really light wet sanding with 1500 grit. And then we'll go back, we'll put another coat on after we make sure all the water and everything's off that. We'll go back on and we will do another coat of black, and that should be good. It's actually covered everything pretty good. If it wasn't for little splotches here and there, I'd probably just go ahead and use it as is, but too many splotches. Okay, so off camera, I put another coat of black on the fender, and I thought I'd turned on the camera when I painted this, but I didn't. And we're still using just the satin black. It's not going to matter at the moment. I will put, in about 10 minutes, I'll put another coat on this part. And the fender, I think I will go ahead and put a thin coat and sprinkle some flake on there. And then we will use the plastic wrap. Then we'll start with clear coats. All right, here we go. A nice heavy coat. This flake is going to be everywhere. Just nice, even droppings as much as possible while it's still wet. And then to get the sides, all right, I got that. Now I'm gonna cover it with the plastic wrap.
Look what I got.
All right, now I'm gonna try to cover it with the plastic wrap to get it as smooth as possible, to try to lay some of this glitter down rather than sticking up on its edge, that it'll be laying flat. I don't know if it's gonna work, but we will find out. So we want to go. There we go.
Yeah, I'm helping.
I'm just trying to get it to go flat as possible. No, no.
Find a.
All right, I got a little helper trying to do her best to help us out. All right. So I'm just trying. I don't know whether this will work, but we're going to try. All right, now we're going to peel it back. And that is not, well, we might be able to get it to work. We will try with another coat of clear coat and then try adding it like that. Okay, so I don't know if you can see it on this, but it definitely left imprints in the paint, and we don't want that. But that's okay. We're going, while it's still wet, we're going to add clear coat, which I must grab the primer. We're going to add the clear coat and try laying down some more sparkle and see if that helps.
Can you make me to see?
It's still wet. And I'm doing a heavy coat. Usually you do thinner, but it's still wet. And we're going to do some more. And we do have a little helper behind the camera. She's not going to touch the camera though, is she?
No. I'm gonna see. I'm watching to see if you're doing it right.
All right, and then I'm going to do another. Wow, that's still wet. Now remember, we don't know if this is going to work. We're hoping it will. We're hoping to kind of saturate it and get it to flow as if the flake was already in the clear coat. That is very pretty. Okay, so it looks like it's smoothed out quite a bit, which is good. So we're gonna, only time will tell. So right now we're just gonna let it sit for the next about 15-20 minutes to get a nice thick dry surface on there. And then we will put a couple more on. Then we're going to try the bigger piece and see how that goes. Okay, so it's looking good. I will keep adding a few layers about every 5 minutes or so just to thicken it up, because the flake, I still see a little bit of area where the flake is really thick. Almost looks like the edges of sandpaper, and that's not what we want. But in other areas, it's really smooth. Like over here, it's smooth. It's kind of gritty up here. I'm going to spray it with black. We'll just keep giving it, every few minutes we'll give it a couple good coats. Let's see.
Can I give it
on the side?
Coat? Can I give it a coat?
And I do have a little bit of drip.
I would like to do a coat.
But we'll let it dry for about 15 minutes or so, and then we'll check back. Good morning. It's the next day. So I came down. I started to sand. I was going to do a 600 grit, but my little helper was kind enough to put a piece of 220 in the water. I thought it was the 600 because it's black. And I started sanding with it, which was unexpected. But she actually ended up helping out, which is fantastic. The glitter did stand up on edge quite a bit, so it felt like sandpaper. I've gotten that down quite a bit, and it's actually looking fairly decent. Right now it's all scuffed up. I did have a couple drip areas. I knew about that one. That one I did not know about. But let's take a look at this. Look how bright that will be and shiny once we are done. So I am going to take, now I'll do the 600. Then I'll do the 1000. Then I'm gonna put another clear coat on. Let that set for about 10 minutes. Then I'll do another clear coat. We'll let that set for a good hour and see how that comes out. I think it'll come out pretty good considering how well this looks. So let's see. Now, something to point out. When I'm doing the sandpaper, it's wet, lots of water on there. I'm just letting the water determine. I'm not pressing hard at all. The sandpaper is running smooth. Now this is 1500. I will move to 2000 in a minute. This is just another gentle sanding to get any rough, high spots off. Just do it gentle. Let it go on its own. You don't have to really work it. And I'm doing that way. I've done this way. Circles. let it alternate a little bit so you don't get any direct lines in it. All right, so I got it down to 1500 grit. It feels fairly smooth. I did heat it up with a heat gun just because it dropped in temperature here. So now I'm going to use the fast drying poly. It's a little bit warmer now. So I'll do a couple coats of that, then we'll come back. Start, end. You want to overlap the parts. All right, so now we'll just let that sit. It'll dry for about 15 minutes and we'll do another coat.